Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Cancer Out Loud, the Cancer Care Podcast. My name is Hayley. I am an oncology social worker and the Young Adult Program Coordinator here at Cancer Care. Today we are joined by Marija, a mother and caregiver for her daughter Tara, who will share a bit about her experience going through treatment for Hodgkin's lymphoma. Thank you so much for joining us today, Marija and Tara. I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. So, I wanted to first kind of ask if either of you remember originally what it was like hearing the news of your diagnosis. So, Marija, what your experience was, some of your first initial reactions and emotions, and same, Tara, for you as well.
I mean, before she was diagnosed, we had a whole long process of, her being misdiagnosed. And it's an important topic in the context of lymphomas, because most lymphomas sometimes go with severe itching. And it seems that not all, healthcare professionals are aware of that. So in Tara's case, it was a couple of months of her being, shuffled from like one the specialist skin doctor to another, to epidemiologist, to virologist, to skin person, and because her only symptom was like severe itching, and they were all saying, it's you basically need to change the detergent. That was the message. And the other one was, she's just starting high school. It's all in her head, Mom. Don't worry, it's all in her head. So we had a lot of that. And after that, only when we reached the point of her being seen at a ER, this is where the diagnosis was actually, proper diagnosis was given.
I'd say for me, it was definitely a lot more shocking than it was for you. I know that my parents had also started doing some of their own research just after a whole lot of duds with this like allergy, eczema sort of diagnosis. They were already kind of thinking it might be something down the cancer route. I had no clue. I was just frustrated and confused generally. It was my freshman year of high school as well. So it was a lot of like missing school and constantly being told the same thing and just nothing helping. And then all of a sudden it was like this big 360 where it was like, we're going to get an x-ray and then we have to rush back to the hospital. And I'm just wondering what any of this has to do with like this allergy I supposedly have. And then out of nowhere, it was like, yeah, we're pretty sure you have cancer. So it was a really big, like 180 in my head. It was just the opposite of what I was expecting the cause to be. And just something I had never really, I guess, expected for myself. I feel like everybody thinks like, that happens, but it's such a rare situation that most people just think it would never happen to me. And I think my first thought was just like, this like isn't true.
Yeah, totally.
And that specifically for lymphomas is, after she was diagnosed, we met a couple of people or heard of other people who had lymphomas, and they were all elderly people. So like,
Yeah.
that was another thing, which was sort of interesting and funny.
And it must have been really difficult, Tara, for you to advocate for yourself, saying how you were feeling and what you were experiencing, and Marija, for you as well, as her mother, to advocate for her and say, that this isn't just anxiety, this is, so much more, right? And you guys were right. That must have been really difficult. And did it break any feelings of trust that you had in your medical team or just the medical system?
Well, maybe I hate to say it like that, but I'm sort of wary of men in healthcare profession, because these are the people who are saying like, Mom, no, I'm a doctor. Because I did that. Like I would say like, this is what I've read. It might be lymphoma. And he's like, no, Mom, I'm the doctor. And then, it took, but wait, I'm a journalist, for him to order some additional tests. So I don't know.
I think that it's not even, I wouldn't say that it's a mistrust of like male doctors. It's more so just like being a woman in like a healthcare setting.
Yeah.
you're much more likely to get overlooked. And for me, I just had a history of eczema already. So it was like, even though I could 100% tell that this was not an itching I'd ever experienced, I remember even at the very beginning telling my mom, like, it feels like I'm trying to scratch like something that's like coming out of my skin. It didn't feel like something itchy on top of my skin. It felt like something itchy like inside my body. I could tell that it was not really related to that, but I don't think there was a lot like, I would try to express that, and then people would be like, "Well, you don't have, like you're not a medical student, you don't have a medical degree, do you really know what you're talking about?" And it turned out I did.
Yeah, yeah. You know yourself, you know your body,
Yeah.
and thank goodness you listened to that and that you both advocated, right?
Yeah.
And how did you wind up kind of rebuilding confidence in your team and in kind of your medical system and the treatment that you were getting? Was it finding kind of like, that perfect match in care, and what did that look like as you navigated trying to find a team?
I mean, I can talk about my experience. I think that once we started meeting people more in the oncology field, the way that everything that was happening was treated was completely different. I think there's also a whole lot of people who work in oncology, especially in like childhood oncology, who've gone through those issues themselves. And it's honestly like the longer I stayed with my team, the more personal stories I'd heard from them, either of like they themselves having childhood cancer or having someone close to them. And I think that just like how personally related they were to that helped me rebuild that trust because they really, really cared about like not just making sure I was healthy, but like making sure that it was as like easy as possible for me to go through that.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and as you spoke about kind of building your team and building that trust, are there other people outside of your, oncology team that you connected with that maybe you didn't think you would? Any family, friends, peers who had a big impact in your original diagnosis and then throughout your treatment? And same for you,
Well,
Maria.
when I was first diagnosed, my mom sort of started looking for family friends and like connections we might have if anybody else had gone through something similar. And I ended up meeting a girl who's a year older than me and had just gone through leukemia treatment, and we actually became really good friends. And I was just like given the opportunity to speak to someone who's recently been diagnosed, and I was just reminded like how helpful it was at the beginning, not just to like know what I was going to go through, but to hear it from the perspective of someone my age. And it's just really cool to have someone like I still talk to her about it. Um, like she is one of the only people in my life who truly understands like not just all the stuff I'm going through, but also like how I dealt with like high school and like hanging out with my friends and all that sort of stuff that a normal teenager would deal with on top of the diagnosis. So yeah, I think she was super helpful.
And for me, it was so interesting to observe that all of a sudden, some people that I wouldn't necessarily count on were there to be super helpful. But then at the same time, some people that I counted in close friends maybe just drifted away. So there was a little bit of that shift, but I'm like so grateful for doctors, for friends, for family members, for Tara's school. Yeah,
It was
for you guys, for
yeah,
actual care. Yeah,
it
yeah.
I think that our own community really came through in a way we weren't expecting. Like my mom said, there's a lot of like I wouldn't say like not close friends, but like more so acquaintances who were like making a point to text us once a week. Is she okay? Is there anything we can do to help? Do you need us to bring my food and stuff like that? People we really hadn't expected that from. And also, I think we built a really big community through meeting people online, going through similar things, and at the hospital, we've sort of made our own little cancer community.
Yeah.
And then Tara's school was really
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah, because so I connected to other moms with kids in similar situation, and not in all states and all schools are equally,
Yeah.
welcoming and understanding. So shout out to New York City schools.
Yeah. 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 And thank you
Mm.
for both emphasizing that because we see so often, in especially in support groups here at Cancer Care and in other support groups that just having a community of people who can share your experiences, maybe they're a similar age or a similar diagnosis, or can just relate to any part of your experience, either as a patient or a caregiver, is so important. And people just really, again, we hear all the time that it's just such an important thing for people to have because it gives you some hope that, people understand what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. So thank you for emphasizing that.
Yeah. I think it's like such an, I don't want to say alienating experience, but it's just a very different way of living your life when you're going through cancer treatment. And you can almost feel like you're the only person who's ever gone through this
Yeah.
because not a lot of people know someone else in their direct circle. So when you connect with other people that are also going through the same thing, you just start to feel a lot more comfortable and like normal in what you're going through. And that just makes the whole process so much easier.
And speaking on that normalcy that you just mentioned, Tara, were there any activities or routines that helped you kind of maintain that normalcy on a day-to-day basis when you were in treatment or when you were on maybe like an off week from treatment?
I think that just trying my best to have a routine and like wake up, get ready, put on clothes, even though I know I'm not going out, like brush my teeth, be presentable, try to sit down, try to do something was really the biggest thing because I found myself really easily slipping into like, I don't feel good. I don't have anything to do. I don't really have anything I have to do. So I can just sit there and not do anything. But I knew that I would feel better if I pushed myself a little bit and actually got something done. And then I also tried to like reframe the way I was thinking about like being productive and really celebrating just getting little stuff done. So I would be proud of myself for getting up and making my bed because that's something that wasn't super easy for me to do. I didn't strive towards like, I'm going to get all my homework done today and do this essay and do all this big stuff. It was really like, I'll take this little step and this little step and this little step. And that was like the best way for me to maintain that sense of normalcy.
Though
That's huge.
I wanna say that she was known at the hospital because she had couple of hospital stays as that kid that does her homework.
Yeah, yeah. It can be really hard to maintain that normalcy, right? When, you're in pain, you are feeling uncomfortable, you are emotionally and physically struggling, right? And to even try to do something small is huge. And Maria, for you, was there anything that helped you kind of maintain that normalcy and kind of do things that as you had originally done before Tara's diagnosis?
No, because no, because my new normal became, caring for Tara, and everything else was secondary or didn't
Yeah,
really matter.
yeah,
So, and then with that new normal, we had also some, good things. We also had some joyful moments. So it's not, I don't, when I think about her hospital stay, I not, there is a lot of, pain, and there is a lot of, difficult feelings, but then also there are some positive feelings.
I agree.
Yeah.
definitely. And did either of you have to, I'm sure you did, have to make major changes to your daily schedules, like work, school? Maria, what did that look like? Did you stop working? And Tara, did you go to school during treatment or did you have to stop?
Okay. So, because I'd had multiple different kinds of treatment, I've got a lot of experience in the whole like going to school and not going to school. The first time I went into treatment, I had to take 6 months off of school and I did online school. And the biggest issue I found with that was just like a lack of qualified teachers that were able to teach online. I also went to like a magnet school, so the level of what I was learning in school versus what I was learning in online school was night and day. I had gone from like getting taught by like extreme people who were like extremely professional in their fields, people with doctorates in like biochemistry and stuff like that, to teachers who were trying their best, but like truly just didn't even know the curriculum that I was supposed to be taught. So the second and third times I went through treatment, I spoke with my school, and as my mom was saying, they were incredibly accommodating and they allowed me to continue my studies basically asynchronously. I would be turning in Google Classroom homework and stuff like that, and just focusing on like reading through their slideshows and kind of teaching myself. That ended up working better for me. But I do see why the online school program exists. It's definitely easier for some people to learn that way.
It's like, so Tara was in treatment from her from junior year until her like the end of the high school. So with some
Yeah.
breaks, but so that's the context. I thought it was funny. The first time around she was taking the online classes, that particular maths teacher was completely convinced that Tara is a math genius and that she should go to field of mathematics, which
In general,
yes.
like math is probably my worst subject. I'm definitely more of a humanities person.
Mm.
I also like I talk with my friends a lot about this. I'm missing a big chunk of like ancient history because I left school and we were learning about like the Greeks and ancient Greece. And then I took like a combined English and history class, which was really just a teacher telling me to like read a couple chapters of a book. That was about all we did. And then I came back to school and we were learning about like early societies in Europe. So I just missed out on this big chunk of history because there was no one there to teach it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow, that must have been really difficult. Did you then kind of do your own research, or did you
Yeah,
kind of go back to classes and
I had to
relearn?
just do my own research into
Yeah.
what was going on, ask my friends,
Yeah.
catch up.
but at the same time, we know of another kid in Connecticut, I think, and the Connecticut doesn't have that obligation towards the children who are, ill. And so for that particular person, there was no school, and she had to she was delayed 1 year. Or
Yeah, she was just expected to come back to school and pick up without any sort of like work on what she had missed. There was no supplemental learning.
So yeah,
Yeah.
New York City, really good.
And kind of going back a little bit to supports, Tara, did your school friends really show up in the ways that you kind of wanted them to?
Like, I tell this to everyone, but I'm really like so grateful with the group of people I'd met. Also, because they had just gotten to know me. I mean, I can only imagine how strange it is to like meet someone. And, at the beginning of high school, at the beginning of any sort of new school, you're kind of like hanging out with these people all the time and they're your close friends, but you've really only known them for a couple months. So I had all of these friends who I was with all the time, and all of a sudden, like, I was just gone. And I didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what was going on. And we just had to figure it out together. And they're still really, really supportive, but they were amazing through all of it. They kept me they kept in touch with me. They kept me up to date on everything that was going on. And when I came back, they really tried to make sure that it was like no time had passed. And I really appreciated that. And then like going deeper into my treatment, as we all got closer, they started like coming to visit me in the hospital and stuff like that. And they knew that it was really important to me to like keep my life as functional and normal as possible. So they really made an effort to not, show that they were afraid for me, or like nobody was trying to, I don't want to say they weren't pitying me, but they were really trying to like put on a brave face for me and just soldier on like I was, just like act like everything's normal even though it wasn't.
At some point, I thought it was funny and very cute and sweet. At some point, she was invited to sort of get together at one of the girls' homes. And at that point, Tara was she went through chemo and she was wearing one of the wigs.
Okay.
And when she got there, all the girls were wearing wigs.
They all bought like a bunch of
Yeah.
colorful wigs because they wanted to surprise me.
Yeah.
So I open the door and I see all my friends and they've got like purple hair and green hair and blue hair. They all got different colors. It was very
Wow.
cute.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And, you know, for kids your age, they may not have known anyone else before who
Yeah,
had a
no, they
cancer diagnosis,
definitely
right?
didn't.
So, yeah, Maria, what was your experience seeing Tara's friends show up for her like this?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, I have good friends. I'm even surprised. What was more surprising maybe is that I've heard from a couple of moms whom I didn't know, you know. So they reached out to ask if they can do anything. So that was really nice.
And what does support look like in your family unit as a whole? Do you all kind of check in about how each of you are feeling emotionally, or has that changed at all since treatment also?
It's a question for you.
Question for me, how does support look? Well, I think that we are very much in tune to Tara's needs. Tara might say too much because I do keep wondering if I'm too much,
Like overbearing.
overbearing. Yes. Uh, so I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, obviously, yes.
I think that like support in general has brought us closer, especially because I don't have any siblings. I think that the support that I was needing, um, brought our family a lot closer together because there's not a lot of like 15, 16-year-olds that are spending that much time with their parents. And there's not a lot of 15, 16-year-olds that need that much help from their parents. So I'm almost grateful that I needed their help because it brought us a lot closer together. And I don't know, I think what support looks like in our family is my parents not just checking in with me and asking how I feel, but somehow knowing if I'm being honest about how I'm feeling and, pushing, even if I'm saying, oh, I'm okay, if they can tell that maybe I'm not, pushing through that and still helping me.
And but then also when she's saying I can't, pushing because we know that she can
Yeah,
sometimes. That's that other parent. Who's- yeah.
Well, it's great. It's great to hear that, you know, despite all of these incredible challenges, right, that you all went through, it's brought you a bit closer as a family, right?
absolutely.
That's
And
for
it
sure.
and it
Yeah.
shows you how strong you all are. And are there any kind of specific coping strategies that worked for you all? Anything that you did, like, you know, was it a family dinner once a week, or was it like going for walks together? Anything specifically that you feel like helped you all stay connected during the diagnosis and treatment?
We watched a lot of baking. And Tara bakes. And we eat with Tara bakes. Yeah, lots of movies, a lot of games. We
I
played
say,
games.
yeah. Especially when I was first getting treatment, it was still like coming out of the pandemic. So there wasn't much we could do. That first time, I really had to stay away from people because COVID was a much bigger concern. So we did, as my mom said, a lot of movies. We got really into these like board game escape rooms, which I think are super cool because I really like escape rooms, but I couldn't go out and do them in real life. So we did that. And then in like hopes of getting me out, we did a lot of like family walks, which is what you were talking about. But that was really fun
Yeah,
as
we
well.
did that. Lots of traveling when we were
Yeah, like
away.
road trips and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Was there anything else? Going out, celebrations, but the specific coping strategies, like we took a meditation class.
Mhm.
My husband and I did. We took a breathing exercise class. I do yoga. He runs. These are all, coping strategies for sure. Um,
Huge, and it sounds like those kind of also helped you maintain even little bits of normalcy,
Mhm.
just
yeah,
continuing those those coping
yeah,
strategies and activities.
yeah. Was
Definitely.
there anything else? I feel there must be more for Tara.
For me, I mean, a big coping strategy for me, surprisingly enough, was just sleeping a lot more. Um, I started sleeping like 12, 13 hours a day, and it was equal parts like helpful for me because it's just good to sleep for your health in your body. But also, it was 12 hours of my day, a full half of my day that I didn't have to be thinking about how I was feeling. I could sort of check out. And I started like having these very vivid dreams where I could go outside and see people. And it was almost like a little adventure I could go on where I would fall asleep. And
Tara's dad and her, they had a whole thing where
oh,
they were practicing vivid dream.
I was trying to learn how to lucid dream
Yeah.
at one point, which was
That's
really fun.
awesome.
Yeah, this is when we were at the hospital with her.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep. Wow. Those, I mean, again, great strategies to use, right? Whether it's distraction, whether it's, using sleep as a way to rest and heal, it's all good, uses of sleep. And, kind of switching gears a little bit, were there any hard conversations or challenges that you can think of or that are most kind of poignant in your memory of, your original diagnosis, trying to figure out treatment, or, in the middle?
I think that there's a couple for sure. Hard conversations, the ones that come to mind, first of all, like anytime I need to tell people that I've had cancer, or more recently, anytime the cancer has relapsed and I have to bring that news to people, it's difficult because I just, first of all, I'm going through this hard thing. And second of all, I don't want to be like putting unnecessary stress on other people, because now not only am I going to be like in pain and stressed out, but also now I have to tell all my friends this thing that sucks and they're going to be sad for me. So those conversations were very difficult. And I think in more of a medical setting, the difficult conversations are like when you're going through, like before you're about to start going through treatment, having the conversations with your doctors about what that's actually going to look like is never fun.
as well as them detailing all side effects
Yeah.
of various treatments, and that was difficult. And then it's always difficult, you know, returning to the first time she was hospitalized, and did we make a good choice for her being in that particular hospital versus a different hospital, you know.
Is there anything that helps within these difficult conversations, that helps you stay grounded, or that helps you come to a decision if a decision has to be made clearer?
I'd say for me, thinking about like the times I've told my friends about it, I always try to take like wait for like a good moment in conversation, not just throw it in, I've learned. And like just take a deep breath and maybe start off with like, I need to tell you something and it's not gonna be like a fun conversation, but we got to get this over with. Like prepping people beforehand and prepping yourself beforehand. And I've also found for myself personally that like dealing with all of this through comedy and like trying to laugh about it as much as I can has been very helpful. And it was a bit weird for my friends at first, but I think they've also kind of picked up on it. And for all of us, being able to joke about it as much as we can, I think takes the seriousness out of the conversation a little bit and makes everyone feel a bit better. I think a lot of people, when they first hear something like that, like about a cancer diagnosis, they don't know how to react. And coming from a place where they know that there's no wrong reaction, you can start laughing about it, you can start crying about it, but nothing they say is like the wrong thing to say. In my eyes, I think has made it easier for both of us.
I have a younger brother and he lives overseas and he is very funny person. And I remember he saw like first time, well, there was a time when he spoke with Tara over Zoom and she was without hair, of course. And then at some point Tara had her wig on and he's like, without missing a beat, he was like, "Oh, Tara, your hair has grown back fully." And there are humorous parts of,
Yeah.
of, of the journey as well.
do you feel like you find more humor or moments of humor after treatment, or was it more during treatment that was helpful?
I think both, honestly. Now anytime I talk about it, it's probably a joke, and I use it as like a lot it's a lot of like um punchlines nowadays, but I don't know. I think while I was going through it, it was helpful in a different way. While I was going through it, it was helpful to be laughing about it because that almost made it seem less serious to me. And now laughing about it is helpful because it's like less traumatic of a thing to think about. And it just makes it easier for me to think and talk about everything I've gone through.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask you guys, are there any misconceptions that you feel like you had before your diagnosis about cancer, about, the experience of going through treatment that you you thought, yeah, any misconceptions that you had before that have kind of changed?
Many of the kids, so Tara went to the school that actively fundraised for St. Jude's for Children's Cancer Hospital. And we were always given flyers of many kids that looked pathetic on those photos, sad, pathetic, really heartbreaking. And then I want to say that children's ward with cancer kids is not necessarily and not always sad, empathetic, and, negative in any sense. Um, there are a lot of kids on children's ward at MSK, for instance, and it's also that floor is bursting
With life,
with
yeah.
life, with laughter, and with activities. Like there is a lot of coloring and games and
There's clowns walking
yeah,
around.
colors and animals, and it's not sad. It's not sad
Yeah, people are
necessarily. Yeah,
definitely put up much more of a fight than I mean, I understand why that is how it's sort of portrayed, but I think
yeah.
it's a lot people are a lot stronger and fight a lot harder. I think for me, the biggest misconception I had about cancer was that like the hardest part of cancer treatment really is like the treatment itself. Like that's what causes most of the side effects and the symptoms. I personally had like the only symptom I had that was caused by the actual cancer was being itchy. And I'd lived my whole life thinking that cancer was hard because the disease is difficult on your body, when in reality, it's the treatment that is so difficult on your body.
With a little asterisk, it was chemo that was hard on your body. For
Mhm.
instance, immunotherapy wasn't. So
That's true.
we are really, since we are now thinking of, I'm at least following all the newest developments with cancer, care. Uh, it seems that if the future is in immunotherapy, I mean, that
Yeah.
doesn't have to be as hard on the body as chemo.
And did you feel like when you were navigating these side effects of treatment, did you feel like you had people who told you beforehand what to expect? And was it kind of an accurate representation of what you experienced?
I think so, especially with like the more common treatments. Like when I was first going through the chemo, I was very aware of how it was going to go and what I was going to be feeling. I think that the only time I wasn't super aware of it was this last bone marrow transplant I had. And I remember talking with my parents, we were almost like glad we didn't know how hard it was going to get. Obviously, we were told like in general what was going to happen, but we didn't know quite how difficult it was gonna be, and I think that made it easier going into it, like, while we were pushing through it, to not be thinking like, "Oh, this is gonna be hard, this is gonna be hard, this is gonna be hard," but just to, like, take things as they came.
And I also wanted to ask to that point, a lot of times in groups and in counseling and just kind of in general here at Cancer Care, we hear a lot about scanxiety, right? So a fear or, anxiety about an upcoming scan or upcoming results. Do either of you experience that? We hear both from the patient perspective and the caregiver perspective. So I'm curious if you experience that and how you handle it, or what helps you through those really difficult moments of experiencing that, if you do experience it?
I think I definitely experience it to a lesser extent than my parents do because almost like try to tell myself like there's nothing I can do about it. Like I just need to set it aside. Like no amount. I think when I feel like anxiety coming up, I just try to remind myself that like whether I'm stressed about it or not, whether like no matter how I feel, there's not much I can do to change the results. I think the most anxiety I feel is not even during the scans, but like they'll tell me like, "Oh, your results will probably be there on Wednesday." And once Wednesday hits, that's when the real anxiety starts. But I think the most helpful thing is just giving myself grace and knowing when those points of anxiety are going to come up and just taking it a little easier those days. You know, if I'm not going to plan anything else to do on a day that I have scans, I'm going to make an effort to maybe like after scans get like a food I really like to eat or something like that. Um, just to have something that makes me happy to kind of counteract the anxiety that I'm feeling around that.
So there is always, so we have two feelings, right, going into scans. The first one is because of the nature of the disease. You really want whatever it's out there to show itself as soon as possible. Like if there is something there, I want to see it on the scan the minute it's there. At the same time, there is, like feeling like, oh God, I really want her to have a clear scan. She needs to have clear scan. So it's a little bit of juggling the two, which is not easy at all. Now, when I'm talking about it, it's not easy at all. And I deal with that with a day off and usually a sedative of a sort.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. We always encourage, just like Tara mentioned, like doing something that either distracts you or, something that's helpful to look forward to, like a food or, an activity that you're going to do after the scan. Or, again, we can encourage distraction, right? Like if you have a day in between scans and results, maybe, seeing family, seeing friends, something that helps you manage those emotions, because of course there's going to be maybe some fear or anxiety around waiting for those results. Definitely. So thank you both for sharing. So you both mentioned that family and friends have been very supportive. School has been very supportive. How has cancer care kind of fit into that support system for either of you or both of you?
Yes, for me it was instrumental of keeping my sanity. I want to say I was really happy that I was matched with a really, really compassionate and skillful and kind person who was really in tune with my everyday life. I am very grateful to that person and for cancer care in general for always being reminded that yes, it is hard now, but I promise you, with every good scan, it will be easier and easier. Um, I was matched with a support group through cancer care, and that was also a really good experience. Hearing other providers, though these were mostly people who were caring for their spouses, but still, I felt instant kinship to them. Um, and it's just phenomenal, like meeting very, very kind and interesting people through cancer care was good. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a reminder that support can look different for everyone, right? Some people prefer, peer matching. Some people
Mhm.
prefer support groups. Some people prefer individual counseling. It's all very individual, and there's no right or wrong answer, right? Support can look any way that's most comfortable for that individual. So I also wanted to ask you both, as we kind of near the end of our conversation, two more questions. And then I'll, of course, give you both the space to share anything that I didn't get to. But I wanted to ask what advice you would share to families who are maybe just starting this journey with their loved one, with their child who's diagnosed.
Mine would be seek help of the peers, of people who were already in the similar situation or are in similar situations. And there are many places to seek help. Cancer care is one of the really good places. But apart from that, there are closed Facebook groups for people who are experiencing exactly the same thing as you are experiencing. In this moment, other organizations are out there seek connections through the hospital. That was most helpful for me. We live in New York City. We're originally from former Yugoslavia. First time around, I was even connected to survivors from Serbia, and that was helpful. So,
And then I think my biggest piece of advice would be to just give yourself grace and give yourself, not to be hard on yourself. I'm somewhat of a perfectionist, and I think it was very difficult for me to go from someone who was like always working, always like moving forward, doing things, to someone who literally was not able to do that. And it took me a while to accept that and to be fine with, working at my own capacity at that moment. And it's like there's nothing you can do about the situation you're in. So it's important that you treat yourself with kindness and understand that no one's ever going to have a good day every single day, and that it's much more important to just, move forward and keep pushing than it is to strive for this perfection that you can't have at that moment.
and also I would tell them that yes, it's going to be hard, but there will be those surprising moments of almost joy.
Mm-hmm.
Joy for all three of us being together, joy of like having her now for an entire year for ourselves in a way, like you don't get that often when you're teenagers. Joy of also being on a personal journey. Like I've learned a lot about myself. I want to think that I'm a better person now because of the entire experience.
And even all of that aside, like the harder things get, the almost happier you feel when things start getting
Oh,
better.
yes.
I think that
Oh, yeah.
I've just like every single day I wake up feeling better, and it's such a treat to really be able to have this like true happiness over just feeling a little bit better today. A lot of people don't get to experience that because they haven't had the other side of not feeling good the day before.
Tara lost during the last cycles, she lost the sense of taste.
Taste.
And now you told me how
Everything tastes so sweet now, and it tastes so much better than it did before because I spent a month not really being able to
Yeah.
taste things properly.
Yeah. Wow. It's like a whole new appreciation for things that you didn't
Exactly.
Yes.
think
Yeah.
about before, right? That's
But that thing that Tara mentioned, like I feel love deeper now, really. Like
yeah.
gratitude, like positive feelings are also deeper. Like yes, I had very deep sadness, but it came with very deep positive emotions as well.
I
Right.
absolutely second that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a great reminder that now that you both just said that, for people who are really in the thick of it right now, there is light and positivity
Oh,
on
yeah.
that other side, and that's huge. I think it's so important to hear, especially from you both who have experienced this. And then is there anything else that either of you want to add that we didn't get to, that I didn't ask? I'd love to hear, anything that you want to share.
I'm thinking. I think that the main thing for me is that going through this experience as such a young person has given me like a newfound appreciation for life that I'm incredibly grateful for. I think that I have a perspective on life that most people don't gain until they're like late 70s and 80s, where I've been through this experience where it was like my possibility of a future and a life was taken away from me for a bit. And because it was, I'm now so much more grateful to just wake up every day and get to experience things. I think that the perspective that has given me is almost like makes up for all the things I've gone through, because it makes me so much happier to just be alive. And I think that's an incredible thing that I've been given.
And for me, and For my husband, I think it's like it really reshuffles your priority, and nothing material is a priority anymore. Nothing, prestige-wise, nothing superficial is a priority anymore. So that's, how do I look? Not a priority, really not. So, yeah, that's interesting.
It gives you a very good perspective on what things actually matter. I'll catch myself nowadays being stressed out about like a test or a fight with friends, and I have the ability to like stop and put things into perspective and be like, think about where you were a year ago today. What I was worried about back then is like, how am I going to get through this surgery, this treatment? Am I going to be alive? In the grand scheme of things, how well I do on this test is not something I need to be stressing about to the level I genuinely am.
Yeah, that's so true. Very, very true. I think that's going to be really helpful for people, especially around your age, to hear as well, who are going through treatment. So just wanted to thank you both so much. This was an incredible conversation. I know everything that you shared is going to be so helpful for those who are listening. And I want to thank you guys so, so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
for having us, yes.
Thanks for tuning in to Cancer Out Loud, the Cancer Care podcast. Cancer Care is the leading national nonprofit organization providing free professional support services, including resource navigation, cancer-focused counseling, support groups, educational resources, and financial assistance to anyone affected by cancer. You can visit us online at cancercare.org or call our toll-free Hope line at 800-813-HOPE. That's 800-813-4673 to speak with a master's prepared oncology social worker.